It was Friday night, the one day of the week when Daniel finally had time to breathe. After long shifts driving for food deliveries, he'd promised his 8-year-old son, Noah, that they'd cook dinner together. Nothing fancy, just pasta, laughter, and a little peace after a long week. But that evening, as Daniel stirred the sauce, Noah looked up with that hopeful sparkle in his eyes and said, "Dad, can I invite someone to dinner?" Daniel smiled. "Sure, buddy. Who is it? One of your friends from school?" Noah hesitated. "Not really. It's the lady who helped me when I dropped my lunch at the park yesterday. She was really nice." Daniel chuckled. "A stranger, huh? Well, okay, but you should have told me earlier." Before he could ask more, Noah had already sent her a quick message. An invitation from a child's pure heart. An hour later, the doorbell rang. Daniel wiped his hands and opened the door, and froze. Standing there wasn't just any woman. She looked powerful, polished, the kind of person who belonged in glass offices, not small apartments like theirs. She was in her mid-30s, wearing a cream coat over a business suit, her hair neatly tied, but her smile was gentle. "Hi, I'm Emily," she said softly. "No up, I'm not intruding." Daniel stumbled over his words. "Oh, no, of course not. Please, come in." She stepped inside, glancing around their modest home. Small living room, second-hand furniture, the faint smell of tomato sauce in the air. But she didn't judge. She smiled as Noah proudly showed her the table he'd helped set. Over dinner, conversation flowed more easily than Daniel expected. Noah talked endlessly. About his school, his drawings, his dreams of becoming a pilot or maybe a pizza maker. Emily listened like she had all the time in the world. When Daniel asked about her work, she hesitated for the first time. "I'm in business," she said vaguely, changing the subject. He didn't push. He'd met enough people who wore their silence like armor. As the night went on, something shifted. Daniel noticed how Emily laughed easily, how she listened to Noah with genuine warmth, and how her eyes softened when she saw their framed photo of Noah's late mother on the wall. After dinner, Daniel offered to walk her to her car. It was then he saw it, a sleek black sedan parked outside with a uniformed driver waiting. He blinked, confused. "You have a driver?" Emily smiled faintly. "It's complicated." The next morning, as Daniel was getting ready for another long day of deliveries, there was a knock on the door. He opened it, and froze again. Emily was standing there holding 2 cups of coffee. "I owe you breakfast," she said, walking in before he could object. "Last night was the most real conversation I've had in months." She looked around again, her expression softer this time. "Daniel, can I tell you something?" He nodded. "I'm the CEO of a logistics company," she said quietly. "We manage hundreds of delivery drivers across the city. I started small, like you. But somewhere along the way, I forgot what real people look like when they're just living." Daniel didn't know what to say. She continued, her voice trembling just slightly. "When Noah invited me, I thought it'd be awkward, but it reminded me of something I lost, kindness without agenda. From that day, Emily began stopping by sometimes, not as a CEO, but as a friend. She'd join them for dinner, help Noah with homework, sometimes even ride along with Daniel to see the world from his seat. Weeks passed. One evening, she asked him to meet her downtown. Nervously, Daniel arrived and realized he was standing in the lobby of her company's headquarters. Emily greeted him in her office, now fully herself, poised, confident, yet still carrying that warmth he'd come to recognize. She handed him an envelope. Inside was an offer letter, a stable position as a regional operations manager. Daniel looked up, speechless. She smiled. "You've been doing this job for years, just without the title. I'd like to change that." Daniel blinked, still processing. "Why me?" Emily looked at him, her voice steady. because kindness deserves a chance to lead too. That night, Daniel and Noah cooked the same pasta again. But this time, everything felt different, not because of money or opportunity, but because of what had started it all. One simple invitation, from a child who saw goodness in a stranger, and a woman powerful enough to remember that sometimes, the smallest dinner table can hold the biggest change. Daniel stood by the kitchen window that night, the soft glow of the city lights reflecting on his tired but peaceful face. Noah was sitting at the table, scribbling something with his usual excitement. "Dad," he said, holding up a drawing. "This is us, and her." Daniel looked closer. 3 stick figures around a table, a big sun above them, smiles wide and bright. In the corner, Noah had written one simple word: family. His throat tightened. He glanced at the small apartment. The same space that once echoed with loneliness now felt full of life again, not because of luxury or luck, but because of the small act of kindness his little boy had shown to a stranger. Days turned into weeks, and Daniel started his new role at Emily's company. For the first time in years, he wore a clean shirt to work, carried a badge with his name, and felt something he hadn't in a long time: pride. Emily visited often, sometimes with coffee, sometimes just to talk. She treated him like an equal, and the other employees soon noticed how she respected every worker, from cleaners to drivers. Her leadership changed. Softer, more human. One afternoon, after a company meeting, she stood before her team and said, "Success isn't measured by how high you climb, but by how many hands you reach out to lift." Her eyes briefly met Daniel's, a silent acknowledgement of the journey they had shared. Months later, Daniel used his first bonus to organize a small event for the company's drivers. Free meals, school supplies for their kids, and a community fund for anyone in need. When people asked why he was doing it, he simply smiled and said, "Because once, someone believed in me when I least expected it." That night, as Daniel and Noah walked home under the streetlights, Noah squeezed his father's hand and said softly, "See, Dad, one dinner really can change everything." Daniel smiled, his eyes misty. "Yeah, buddy," he whispered. "It really can. Sometimes, the world doesn't change through grand speeches or big actions. Sometimes it changes quietly, over a shared meal, a child's pure heart, and the courage to be kind when no one's watching."